Welcome back to The Real Story. Big debate over freedom and security playing out on Capitol Hill. Senator Rand Paul standing up against mass surveillance by the NSA, speaking out for more than 10 hours on the floor of the U.S. Senate, opposing the Patriot Act.
The bulk collection must end, and I think we have the votes to do it now. We have to have trust. And you can't have trust when Congress is lied to.
I think Rand Paul is wrong. I think Senator Paul is doing a disservice to the country when he makes these charges. He's making the CIA and the NSA the enemy. The fact is the enemy is Al-Qaeda, and we are not sacrificing any liberty.
Tony Saig is a Fox News contributor. Bernard Whitman, former Bill Clinton pollster and CEO of Whitman Insight Strategies. Whose side are you on, Tony?
Well, look, I certainly think that we have to renew the Patriot Act. I agree with what the House did, which is to limit some of these abuses, because there's no doubt the NSA went a bit beyond, I think, the scope of what we as Americans would like to think our government is doing. But there's also no doubt that these are very serious policies that were put in place because we live in a new world where terrorism has to be fought the same way we used to fight organized crime. That's really essentially what the Patriot Act did. It allowed for these roving wiretaps. It allowed for certain surveillance that prior to this point in 2001 were not really allowed when dealing with international terror.
It's interesting, Bernard, because this is really not a partisan issue. There were Democrats that helped Rand Paul yesterday continue going on for this 10 hours by asking him questions. And also, you have the ACLU, I believe, on the side of Rand Paul.
Well, you know, it's funny because politics always makes strange bedfellows. And actually, Tony and I agree on this. The party lines are not typically lined up as they usually are. I mean, I actually, and I think the two of you know, I'm pretty much of a national security hawk. I support the Patriot Act for the most part. I do think that the changes that the House made are appropriate to limit the data collection and keep that in the phone company's possession that the government then has to ask the phone companies for. But we need these protections. And frankly, what I'd say to people like Rand Paul and others who are really concerned about privacy and data collection, you should be far more concerned about what Google has, what Facebook has, what big data warehouses have, what the credit monitoring companies have, because they're tracking your behavior nearly 24/7, far more than the government is doing. So I think that actually should be more of a concern.
Another issue about Senator Rand Paul now, he's reaching out to minority voters, calling for a more inclusive Republican Party. Writing in his new book this: "My party has let the bond it once enjoyed with minorities fray to the point that it is near beyond repair," adding, "My Republican Party, the Republican Party I hope to lead to the White House, is willing to change." So he's going out. I mean, some people say he's just being honest. You know, look, the Republicans need to do more outreach to minorities.
Look, my old boss, Jack Kemp, who was also a professional football player, used to say that he had showered with more black people than Republicans had shaken hands with. I mean, unfortunately, for a long time, the Republican Party did fall into this kind of trap of just assuming there was no voter opportunity for us. And numbers, unfortunately, corroborate that. Look, I mean, even when Al Gore and George Bush ran in 2000 and George Bush and John Kerry ran, George Bush made a real big effort to win the minority vote. Al Gore's father was voted against the Civil Rights Act in 1963. Yet, nonetheless, they still both got the Democrats over 90%. I think he's right, Rand Paul, in the respect that we do have to take our message to everybody and also change the issue cluster Republicans focus on. And that's where I actually give him and Ben Carson a lot of credit.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if he has other points to follow up other than just saying it. Your thoughts?
I think the fact is they have to do a lot more than outreach. They have to change their fundamental policies and their fundamental outlook towards minorities, whether you're talking about African Americans, Latinos, or gays. I mean, I have said repeatedly for years, if the Republican Party actually got real on issues like immigration and actually could speak intelligently to the Latino voters and actually got real and got over their hang-ups with gay rights and adopted economic policies that were more appropriate to help lift people out of poverty instead of expect that everything trickles down, then the Republican Party actually might have a chance at being a majority party. But as demographics go, that is unlikely to happen, and it's unlikely that simple outreach without a change in policies or values is going to make a difference.
Since the Great Society, Democrats have transferred an unfortunate amount of minorities onto government dependency. The Republican Party is the party of small government. It's a very hard argument to make, although I think it's one we should be making.
All right. Very interesting discussion. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.